On a peaceful morning in a quiet forest, Max, a 5-month-old German Shepherd puppy, faced a challenge that not every creature could endure. Known as a brave and loving dog, Max chose a different way of life, a way of living that many of us can only dream of sacrifice and protection. While other puppies played or sought food, Max lay on the ground stretched over the body of an injured fawn, with death looming right before them. The fawn, later named Willow by Emily, had become trapped in a twisted metal fence, with sharp branches and thorns scratching its legs, rendering it unable to stand. Everything in the forest seemed paralyzed, only the silence, Willow's pain, and Max's determination to protect remained. Despite his own suffering, Max had no intention of abandoning Willow. He stayed strong, not moving an inch. With one injured paw, Max lay across Willow like a shield, guarding her from danger. Max didn't whimper or flee. He understood that in this moment, Willow's life didn't just depend on the rescuers, but on his own sacrifice. The rescue team and Emily could only arrive after receiving a signal, but had they come later, the fawn would certainly have been lost. From that moment, Max became Willow's sole protector. What makes this story so special, aside from Max's unconditional love for Willow, is the unwavering determination of the young dog. Without a single bark or a fearful gesture, Max remained steadfast, lying next to Willow, shielding her from any harm. A coincidence brought Emily to the forest, and as she approached, Max immediately sensed the presence of a human, but didn't step back. Max only stopped growling when Emily slowly moved toward him, hands extended in a gesture of peace. Despite the risk of further injury, Max did not leave, refusing to let anyone interfere with his protection of Willow. The signs of Max's sacrifice became more apparent as Emily approached. The puppy must have been exhausted after hours of sleepless nights, enduring pain from his injured paw. But Max's gaze held no fear, only steadfastness and absolute courage. He wasn't worried about his own safety. He was simply there to protect Willow, the small companion he had chosen to keep alive. He asked for nothing other than to safeguard this fragile fawn who could barely fend for itself. When Emily finally drew near and sighed at the sight of Max, a deeply moving gesture occurred. Max gently licked Willow's ear, a tender and empathetic act that made the heart of any witness tighten. This was not the act of a wild animal fighting for its own survival, but of a being with a warm heart and unwavering loyalty. Though Max may have been in pain, he chose to stay, accepting the sacrifice to protect a life weaker than his own. At that moment, Emily understood that Max was not an ordinary dog. Max was not just fighting to survive. He was living to protect. The story of Max and Willow was not just about life and death, but about friendship, sacrifice, and a decision made by this puppy to protect Willow at all costs. When Emily, a volunteer from the animal rescue team, received the call about a fawn trapped in a metal fence, she had no idea that this would be a life-changing encounter for both her and Max, the brave German Shepherd puppy. Initially, Emily thought it could be a wolf or another injured animal in the woods. However, when she arrived at the scene, what she witnessed made her heart ache. Before her was a heartbreaking sight: Max, with a severely injured paw, lying across the body of a fawn, fiercely protecting it. Blood from Max's paw soaked into the ground, yet the dog showed no fear or exhaustion. Max had only one mission: to protect Willow, the fawn, lying helplessly beneath him. Unlike other puppies, Max didn't run, didn't seek joy for himself. This puppy had chosen to sacrifice himself to protect the fragile life of another creature. As Emily approached closer, she couldn't help but stop and feel choked up by Max's courage. Despite his injured paw and tired body, he had no intention of abandoning the fawn. On the contrary, he demonstrated an unwavering resolve. Max's eyes were filled with pain, but also with determination, showing no fear, ready to protect Willow from any danger. When Emily stepped closer, Max began to growl, signaling that he would not allow anyone to intrude into the space he was guarding. With just one growl, Max stopped anyone who tried to get closer. However, as Emily slowly crouched down and extended her hand in a non-threatening gesture, Max kept his distance, but seemed to show acceptance in his gaze. The way this puppy protected the fawn was not a wild, instinctive reaction, but a deliberate choice. This dog was not just protecting Willow from danger, but he was protecting life itself, guarding a weak creature who could not protect itself. In this moment, Max embodied all that an animal could do: sacrifice, resilience, and unconditional loyalty. As Emily continued to observe, she realized that Max's protection wasn't just physical, but also filled with love and care for Willow. This puppy didn't merely stay on top of the fawn's body. He gently licked Willow's ear, offering comfort in a tender, affectionate gesture. This was an action that couldn't be fully understood with words, yet it was enough to melt the heart of anyone witnessing it. Max wasn't just a barn trying to survive in a harsh world. He was a being with a warm heart, knowing how to love and protect even when he didn't have the strength to do so. Max showed no fear in the face of death, only a commitment to his responsibility toward Willow. As Emily tried to approach, Max maintained his resolve, determined to protect until the very end. This made Emily exclaim that this was not the act of an ordinary dog. This dog was showing a determination not just driven by instinct, but by the choice of his heart. Max was not a guy simply living to eat and play. He was living to protect, to care, and to sacrifice for another life. Witnessing this sacrifice, Emily couldn't help but admire Max. The puppy not only fought to protect Willow, but also showed everyone around him the strength of loyalty and unconditional love. Although this puppy was only 5 months old, what Max demonstrated far exceeded what anyone could expect from a young dog. Max didn't just protect the fawn, he also safeguarded faith in friendship, loyalty, and the power of unconditional love. With each gesture, each action, Max taught Emily and all the witnesses of this story about sacrifice, without expectation and love without request. This puppy became a hero in Emily's eyes, a living testament to pure and deep emotional values that only animals can bring. As Emily approached Max and Willow in the quiet forest, she immediately noticed that this puppy was unlike any dog she had ever met. Though Max was only 5 months old, his eyes revealed a deep, sorrowful story that Emily couldn't help but feel. The wounds on Max's body were not just signs of a survival struggle, but scars from a past full of pain and loss. Each scratch, each injury was part of a story of cruelty that Max had endured from those he had once trusted, those who abandoned him when he was still too young. When Emily began to examine Max's wounds, she noticed a detail that made her heart ache. Beneath his paw, a large wound was bleeding, and as she gently moved the fur on his leg, she discovered a long scar, which seemed to have been caused by a collar or something that had been ripped off his body. This puppy had once been tethered and restrained by some kind of device, possibly a collar, but his previous owner had abandoned him. The marks on Max's body were not signs of a life in the wild, but marks of exploitation, the pain a small creature had to endure during months of neglect with no one to care for or love him. Max was no longer the carefree, innocent puppy he once was. He had lived through harsh times, facing wounds and pain, with no one to comfort him. Emily couldn't even imagine the suffering Max had endured during his time of abandonment. He had lived in the wild, without care, without love, only surviving through constant struggle. The more Emily looked at Max, the more she realized that he wasn't just a dog abandoned. He was a creature with extraordinary courage, one that had survived under the harshest conditions, even when no one was there to help. When Emily looked into Max's eyes, she saw loss. He had not only lost his safety, but also what should have been the basic rights of any living creature, rights to be loved and cared for. Max wasn't just a puppy that had lost its mother. He was a being who had endured the indifference and cruelty of humans. In his eyes, Emily saw a resilience that could never be extinguished, but also an irrefutable loss. The wound on Max's paw wasn't the only sign of his painful past. Emily also noticed a fresh cut on his front leg, an injury that hadn't fully healed. This further emphasized that this puppy had fought to survive and that battle had left a lasting mark on his body. He wasn't just an innocent puppy, he was a warrior who had fought to live even when everything seemed to be against him. Max had not only faced physical deprivation but also endured profound loneliness. He had no family, no owner to love him, no one to care for him. Emily couldn't help but think about the pain Max must have experienced while living alone in a dangerous world with no one by his side to protect him, no one to love him. Though he couldn't express it all, that pain had shaped the Max she saw today. It was precisely because of this painful past that Max became even more special in Emily's eyes. He didn't give up, he didn't succumb to fate. He stood up on his own and protected another life, not for himself, but for a creature weaker than him. Surely when Max chose to protect Willow, he didn't forget his loneliness, he didn't forget the wounds he had suffered. But it was because of this past that Max had gained extraordinary strength to protect and love, a strength that only those who have experienced suffering can truly understand. And when Emily looked at Max, she knew that this was a creature not only deserving of love, but also worthy of a new chance, a new life one, where there was no more pain, no more abandonment. Since Willow was rescued and taken to the Wildlife Center for treatment, Max was no longer the same. He was no longer the cheerful, energetic puppy that Emily had seen in the forest. Now Max seemed deeply saddened, as though a part of his soul had been left behind in the forest where Willow had been in danger. Each passing day, the little dog grew more melancholic, showing no interest in food or anything else around him, only lost in thoughts about Willow, the life that Max had voluntarily protected and sacrificed for. With a weary body, Max no longer showed interest in anything. Although Emily tried everything to make him eat, it was all in vain. The puppy paid no attention to the full bowl of food placed in front of him. Every time Emily placed food next to Max, he just stared at it with empty eyes, as if nothing mattered to him, except the sorrow in his heart. All night, Max wandered through the house, not sleeping, not resting. He would stop only when he heard sounds from outside the window, soft noises like breaking branches or footsteps. Max would stand still, his ears upright, his body tense, his eyes fixed on the sounds, as if searching for something, but finding nothing. Whenever Emily sat down on the couch, Max would silently approach and lie down, his eyes full of concern, staring into the distance. He showed no desire to eat, even though Emily had tried many ways, from cooking Max's favorite dishes to soothing him with pats and comfort. But nothing worked. Nothing could make Max change. He wasn't lacking food or water, but the life that he had been determined to protect. Max wasn't simply sad because of Willow's loss, but because he felt deeply that he couldn't protect his friend despite his best efforts. What Emily couldn't ignore was the deep pain in Max's eyes. He had not only lost Willow, but also a part of himself, a part of his soul that Max had attached to during the battle to protect his friend. It seemed like this little dog had sacrificed a piece of his heart when he lay on Willow, keeping her warm and guarding her fragile life. But now, with Willow rescued and taken away, Max felt as though he had been left alone, with no one to love, no one to protect anymore. Though Max was brought back to a home filled with Emily's love, the emptiness in his heart could not be filled. Emily began to realize that Max wasn't just mourning Willow, but also grieving for his own loss, the feeling of abandonment and the absence of care. The memories of the days he had been left alone in the forest fighting for survival resurfaced in Max's heart. He could feel the loneliness from the long time when no one cared for him, no warmth, no affection. When Emily looked at Max, she couldn't help but feel compassion. She knew that this dog not only needed physical care, but also needed emotional healing. He had given all he had, all his love and sacrifice, to protect Willow. Now Max was facing a loss he couldn't express. He couldn't understand why Willow wasn't with him anymore, and why he had to endure such great sorrow. However, within Max's sorrow, Emily also saw a hidden resilience. He still hadn't given up, still hadn't abandoned life, despite the overwhelming pain. Max knew he had to keep living, not just for himself, but for the other lives he could protect in the future. Max's story is a reminder of the strength of loyalty and unconditional love, no matter how great the pain and loss may be. The day Emily decided to take Max to the rescue center to reunite with Willow, she couldn't foresee what would unfold. After a long wait, Max was no longer the playful and energetic puppy she had seen in the forest. He had sunk into an endless sadness, not just because of Willow's loss, but because of the loneliness and abandonment Max had endured for so long. At that moment, Emily understood that this was not just a meeting between a dog and a fawn, but the reunion of two souls who had shared such great pain, a pain that could only be healed through connection and love. Max didn't bark or jump excitedly as they entered the rescue center. He was silent, walking alongside Emily, with his sorrowful eyes, his gaze fixed on the area where Willow was being treated. Clear signs of stress showed in Max's body. His ears were up and his eyes were focused, as if searching for Willow's presence. When Emily brought Max into the area where the fawn was being cared for, a quiet moment enveloped the space. Willow lay in a special cage, her frail body and sad eyes looking ahead. But as soon as she saw Max, a small change began to happen. Willow lifted her head, her ears twitched, as if recognizing the presence of her old friend. Max stood still for a moment, his eyes filled with emotion. He looked at Willow from afar, hesitant to approach immediately, as though he feared that Willow might not recognize him anymore. But after a brief silence, Max slowly began to move closer, his eyes still fixed on Willow. He didn't bark or show any other signs of excitement, simply standing there observing with the eyes of a friend seeking to reclaim a part of himself. Max's eyes were full of yearning, as if he had found a piece of his soul in Willow, but couldn't believe that this reunion could truly happen. As Max approached further, Willow began to move. The frail fawn stood up, though her legs were still shaky, but her movement seemed like a natural reaction to Max's presence. This was a significant action because it was Max who had protected Willow during the hardest time, who had given her warmth and strength to endure the pain. Now Willow could feel Max's presence, and despite her weakness, she found the strength to stand. Emily couldn't help but feel moved by the scene. She realized that even though both Max and Willow had endured the pain of loss, now they had found each other again. This was not just a reunion between two creatures, but a reunion of souls that had shared an immense burden together. As Max moved closer, he gently licked Willow's face, an affectionate gesture full of tenderness, making Emily's heart swell with emotion. In that moment, there was no more pain, no more sorrow, only love and the connection between two beings who had shared a difficult and challenging life together. The most remarkable part of this reunion was its quiet yet powerful nature. Max didn't need to bark or show excessive joy. All he needed was to look at Willow, lick her ear gently, and sit down beside her. Though he didn't outwardly express it, everything Max wanted to convey was shown through his actions. Willow could feel the love Max had for her, and she was no longer afraid. They both found comfort in each other's presence, a peaceful sense of relief that they both needed after all the struggles they had faced. This reunion was not just a meeting of two creatures, it was the rebirth of a friendship that had endured so much pain. In Emily's eyes, this was a story about unconditional love, loyalty, and sacrifice. Max and Willow didn't just save each other, they also saved the parts of their souls that had been damaged. Their story is a testament to the power of love and the bond between beings in this world. As they left the rescue center, Max was no longer as sorrowful as before. He walked beside Emily, his eyes a little warmer, a little hopeful. The long road ahead still held many challenges, but at least now Max and Willow had found each other, and that was the most important thing. The story of Max and Willow is not just a simple journey of friendship, but a profound testament to unconditional sacrifice and the power of loyalty. Throughout a long period, Max faced not only physical pain, but also an emotional battle to protect Willow, a fawn he had never known but chose to make his friend. This was the sacrifice that no one asked for, a love that was selfless and unreciprocated. Raised in the harshness of the wild, Max learned an important lesson that few can understand. Love is not just care, but the willingness to endure pain for someone else. When Max decided to protect Willow, he didn't just protect her life, but also protected a part of himself, a part he found in this fragile fawn. The sacrifice Max made was not only physical protection, but emotional as well. This little puppy didn't only endure his own pain, but also felt Willow's pain. He accepted the hurt, the fatigue, and kept her alive. In that moment, Max was not just a dog guarding. He was a companion, a savior, a true friend when needed the most. This sacrifice, though immeasurable in words, was clearly demonstrated through Max's courageous actions. Furthermore, Max also teaches us an important lesson about loyalty. Loyalty is not easy, especially when everything is against you. Max chose to stay by Willow's side even when he was injured, suffering intense pain. He didn't run away, didn't give up, but stayed. In a world where life and death are sometimes only a step apart, such loyalty is precious and rare. Max showed that loyalty is not just a promise, but an act accompanied by sacrifice. This puppy did not abandon Willow when she needed protection the most, and this is something every living being should learn from. The story of Max and Willow also carries a message about the connection between creatures. No matter how different we are in species or form, love and loyalty can overcome all. Max and Willow were not traditional friends among their kind, yet they shared a connection that can't be explained by words. The little dog couldn't speak to the fawn, but through every action, every gentle lick of Willow's ear, Max conveyed a clear message: I am here for you, you are not alone. This story highlights the value of connection and compassion in a world full of challenges. What makes this story so special is not just Max's sacrifice, but how this puppy found fulfillment in love and loyalty. The dog was not a perfect creature, but one who had endured abandonment and pain to protect another. This shows that no matter what challenges we face in life, we can find strength within ourselves to protect and love those around us, even when we feel weak and tired. The lessons of sacrifice and love that Max brings are not only applicable to animals but to humans as well. In life, we will face difficult times when pain and loss seem overwhelming. But through Max's story, we realize that love and sacrifice can help us overcome anything. Loyalty is not just persistence in friendship, but also the willingness to face hardships for those we love. Max did this not for what he would receive in return, but simply because of love, connection, and loyalty. The story of Max and Willow is a reminder of the beautiful values we sometimes forget in this fast-paced life. Sacrifice and loyalty are not just actions of a puppy, they are essential lessons for all of us on how to face life, how to never give up, and how to love and protect others no matter how difficult it may be. The story of Max and Willow, though filled with sorrow, is also overflowing with sacrifice and loyalty, and it surely touches the heart of anyone who follows their journey. Max, the little German Shepherd puppy, not only protected the fragile Fawn, but also showed the incredible power of unconditional love and loyalty. The story of Max and Willow is a clear testament to sacrifice to a friendship that transcends species, and it affirms that love and loyalty can overcome all boundaries. This is not just a touching story of a dog protecting its friend, but a great lesson about life, connection, and love. When Max gave up everything to protect Willow, he didn't just save her life. He also saved our faith in the good values of this world. What Max did was not only meaningful to Willow, but also a lesson for us about how a creature can rise above itself to protect and love another life. Max's love and loyalty asked for nothing in return. This little puppy didn't need praise or attention. He only needed to be by the side of the friend he had chosen to protect. This is unconditional sacrifice, something only beings who know love can perform. Stories like this need to be shared not just to spread the emotion, but also to inspire others. Max's story is not just about saving a fawn. It's about loyalty, sacrifice, and love. Every time we share this story, we help others understand the power of unconditional love and create opportunities for dogs and animals like Max to find warm homes with loving owners who care for them. We live in a world full of challenges and difficulties, and sometimes we easily forget the value of sacrifice and love. But the story of Max and Willow is a strong reminder that we should never give up on love and loyalty no matter how tough the circumstances. Sharing this story is not just a small action. It's a way to spread a message of kindness, unconditional love, and the necessity of protecting vulnerable lives in society. Every time we share Max's story, we help another creature, creating an opportunity for puppies like Max to find a loving and caring family. Max's story is not just for animal lovers, but also a reminder to all of us about the importance of loyalty, love, and sacrifice. This story doesn't just bring emotions, it also creates a shift in how we perceive and treat the animals around us. Every action of sharing this story has great significance because it can change the life of an animal in need of protection and love. More importantly, when we share this story, we are also raising awareness of our responsibility toward animals, encouraging adoption and caring for creatures that need help. So if you feel that the story of Max and Willow has touched your heart, don't hesitate to share it. By doing so, we not only help Max and Willow, but also many other creatures whose stories highlight the need for care and protection. Together, we can create a better world for animals in need of love and care, where love and loyalty are not just distant ideals, but real actions every day. Be a part of this story, share it, and spread the message of love and loyalty. With each time we share this story, we move closer to our goal of creating a community that cares for, loves, and protects the vulnerable creatures in this world. Let Max and Willow's story become a source of inspiration for us and help us remember that unconditional love is a precious value that we should never forget.